Well, officially coming down here early on a Thursday morning, NFL draft looming. It's official. Tyler Buchner is heading from South Bend, Indiana to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. After a visit in which his family accompanied him, he went down, visited with the Nick Saban, visited with the Alabama staff, and obviously with the familiarity that he already has with Tommy Rees, he felt like this was the best destination for him. Entered the portal just a few days ago. Who is Tyler Buchner? Well, let's start with what he was, okay? Let's start with who he was in the spring game, which was okay, not great. Still showed some signs of some inconsistent decision-making that plagued him at times last year. He started 3 games last year for the Fighting Irish. Of course, started the season against Ohio State. It was not a performance that you would necessarily remember, but it was also not necessarily a performance in which you're going to come away from it thinking, man, you know what, this guy can't play. Not the case whatsoever. However, it was the following week against Marshall when he had a couple interceptions that put his team behind the 8 ball that ultimately led to them being upset. He got hurt in that game, was sidelined for a vast majority of the season, and then he came back in the bowl game where he led the comeback victory against South Carolina. Well, why did they have to come back? Because he had a couple of errant passes that led to South Carolina scores. So Tyler Buchner, by all accounts last year, was very much a work in progress. But I go back 2 years ago to when I was sitting down with Brian Kelly. At that point, he was the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They were preparing to play against Florida State in the season opener. He said, I quote, "Jack Cohn's our guy, but this Buchner kid can play and he will see the field." That was his exact quote. And I went back and double checked specifically to see exactly how he framed it. And that was it. This guy can play. He will see the field. Jack Cohn was a starter, but Buchner was going to have a role within the offense. They felt that highly about his potential as a young player a couple years back to keep him as a package player, especially in the red zone and in short yardage situations. So Brian Kelly thinks highly of this guy. Clearly, this is a guy that Tommy Rees really appreciates. And by all accounts, you can talk to anybody that's been on the beat for Notre Dame this spring. By all accounts, Buchner has had a terrific spring, has improved his footwork, has improved his accuracy, and by all accounts, spring game notwithstanding, has taken strides as far as his decision-making is concerned. Now, what does this mean for Alabama? It doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to have a plug-and-play starter. This is still going to be a competition. I would be surprised if Alabama didn't lose one of 2 guys to the portal. You got Ty Simpson, you got Jalen Milroe. You bring in Tyler Buchner, I think the likelihood of losing one is incredibly high. Translating it forward just a little bit, Tyler Buchner still has to earn his way onto the field. He'll start out more than likely at best at number 3. But Nick Saban has been on the record in the past saying we would not go into the portal and bring a guy in unless we felt like he could be a legitimate contributor. They're not going to the portal for depth. They're not going to the portal to add guys way on down the depth chart that would be there in case of an insurance policy. They went and got Buchner for one reason and one reason alone, to push to become the starting quarterback. This will be an interesting competition to follow throughout the summer. It'll also be interesting to see whether or not Buchner has really improved when he takes the field this fall for the Crimson Tide.